If you guys don't know what this video is about, we are comparing the Amazon Kindle Color to traditional standard Kaleido 3. They are both Kaleido 3, but we're just going to see how the Kindle Color stacks up to another traditional Kaleido 3 screen from eink themselves. This is 7.8, this is 7.0. Let's dive in. A little bit of a disclaimer. Devices that use Kaleido 3 outside of Amazon have this, and this is gonna be kind of controversial. If you go to Color, look at that. There mathematically are millions of combinations if you combine and multiply each individual point. So there's not really any true way we can match these because it's always going to be slightly different, but we're gonna do the best we can, and we have found around these parameters, which is the 10 to 20 range of each one respectively, should be enough to match the Kindle on the left. And another thing, what we're going to do is make sure we have the glow lights off on both, which we do. And as the Kindle doesn't have this, you don't have to worry about it. But if you go to the refresh, we are going to be on Regal. Regal is the best looking version. And much like on the Kindle, we will be on, well, the only mode it has. There is one thing the Kindle has, which is color style. We're going to be on standard for most of it, but we will show you vivid in a little bit, but we are on standard. So with that, let's dive in. We have the exact same content on both sides here. Out of the gates with glow lights off, the Kindle is brighter. It just is. This glow light is completely off on the unit. There is no brightness, there's no warm light, but it is brighter. And both of these are flush screen, both of these are black bezel, and we've even switched the outside to be black. You can change it. You see right there, you can make it white or you can make it black. We've matched these as close as we can, but the Kindle just seems more just poppy and bright. And they are using presumably the exact same technology. The ebook, aka the standard Kaleido 3 we'll call it, this is the same one that bigme uses and onyx uses. There's no difference. They're both from eink. They both have the color array filter in the same place. The only company that puts the color array filter in a different place basically is Rakuten. So outside of that, this is what it looks like, and it just looks more dark. And obviously this is color, so if we navigate away from that, we're getting into things that don't require color. But you know what? Let's look at it all the same, because Kaleido is traditionally very dark. Now, if you look at the white space here, you'll see that it's quite white. In fact, whiter than that. This almost looks like it has, it's easier with the naked eye, not on camera, but it almost looks like it has more greens in it. Because remember, Kaleido utilizes color to create white, to create black. So if you zoom in on everything, it's going to look like little tiny pixels of greens and purples and pinks and reds in order to create what we are all seeing. In terms of the pixel density, they're exactly the same at 300 ppi a pop, so we don't have to worry about that. Although, however, remember when it's in color, you only get 150 ppi, but that's neither here nor there. So when it comes to the overall color and black and white, pretty much Amazon has it beat. It's just a clearer image of everything, and it's actually much quicker without any speed modes applied. It is faster, whereas on the ebook, you're going to have to swipe up. You're going to have to go here. And this holds true on the bigme and everything else too. You're going to have to swipe over to get the same speed, and even then it's not quite as fast. Now granted, Amazon does delete the page turn animations, whereas on here you can peek as if you are using a tablet. So there's a little bit of an advantage for devices like tablets versus e-readers. Remember, this isn't an e-reader, this is a tablet. Things like the bigme, the Onyx line of devices, HiRead, they're not e-readers. This is an e-reader. You can't do anything outside of ebook reading on this unit. It is strictly for reading. And given that, we are going to open up some books now and see how actual ebooks look next to each other. Still glow lights off on both of these. Now, these aren't the same book, but it doesn't matter that they're not the same book. It just simply is a moot point. Look at the difference between the screens. Look how white this is, and look how dark this is. it definitely is. Now, I must say, there's nothing about Amazon that screams to the surface. In fact, there is quite a large drop shadow if you see right here. The screen actually looks a little bit far away from the user, and much is the same on the MeBook. It's kind of, there's a big gap, although you can't feel it, there is a gap. Now, going over here, we're going to change the mode to Regal, and we're going to zoom in and really see if we can get a good indication on what these both look like at their highest kind of potential. So we're going to go over here to the AA button and the AA button on here respectively, and we're just going to max these out in terms of the font size and everything else. So we're going to max out the sizes as far as we can go. Wow, this one looks like it just keeps going to the moon. I don't know when it ends. 738%? Oh, that's pretty good. There we go. And that's as high as it gets on here. So let's just take a look at this for just a second here. We're going to actually have to refresh the screen on the MeBook because it has a very prone to staining. It does look like there's more greens in here. It definitely does. Look how white that is. And this is the same shot. There's no funny business going on here, but this looks almost like a paper white, like a non-color paper white, but it is indeed the Colorsoft, as you saw. And if you guys are just joining us, this is the Colorsoft. It's the signature edition color device. So it is not a black and white unit. And in fact, if you long press, you'll see that you have highlights. And when you highlight, it's in color. So much like you can do on here as well, pink color. But man, is it just so different. And, you know, a lot of people have been reporting that the Kindle is kind of the best looking color device in terms of vibrancy. And I gotta say, that's probably true. It's so clear and crystal clear. Both of them have good contrast between the blacks and the whites, and both of them have very nice kind of overall resolution. All the curves of the characters that need to be curved are, it's on point, that's all good, but it's just so different when it comes to the vibrancy and how white it is. Now, you can do a bunch of things to change this. In fact, you can turn on the brightness a little bit, and you can turn on the brightness on the MeBook a little bit. Then they start almost looking the same. In fact, this actually looks like it has more purples in it now, and this one is more on the white side, but that's the glow light acting up. Now, you don't want the glow light on all the time because that kind of defeats the purpose of the longevity of the device, etc., etc. But I must say, the Kindle is 2-0 so far when it comes to testing. It's so much more on point than a traditional Kaleido 3. Finally, we have the same colored balls images, and we'll try to line them up like this. Obviously, the formatting is different because this uses a proprietary browser, and this uses another proprietary browser, which is called the eink Bro, as they call it, eink browser. So we're going to try to refresh and get this as clean as possible. Remember, this suffers from a lot of touch errors, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. All right, there we go. Now, before you start saying, well, that's not fair because, you know, we have so many controls here, you are right. It's going to be tough because we're never going to be able to get these the same unless you give us about 16 hours to figure out exactly what the equivalent parameters they're using of what they're using. So it's just not kind of possible. But for the added effect of colorfulness, let's add vivid mode here for this one. So what are we looking at between these two? This looks so much better. It really does. And you know what? Actually, I don't like vivid mode. That you know what vivid mode did is it actually deleted a lot of the dimension. It just made everything kind of bright. You see those little reflections? They're kind of absent, but if we turn on standard, they were more present right there. So they actually look a lot better in this mode than it did in vivid mode. Now, again, it's going to be really hard to kind of match what Amazon is doing precisely. In fact, this is just a little bit overwhelming that in terms of the contrast, the vividness, the color control, there's just too many controls themselves. So what we're going to do is just go default photo mode and see how they look. Now, it's a tough thing to say declaratively which one is better, but again, with the glow lights off, the Amazon just shines both figuratively and literally. It's quite nice the way they have this kind of even all around setup that they leave it to. You leave it to Amazon basically to set this up for you, whereas the opposite holds true on the MeBook and the bigme and the Onyx, in which they give you the controls for custom modes, cartoon mode, display modes, a whole bunch of refresh modes, which are also going to alter the appearance of it. They leave it to you, the end user, to figure it out. And you can get pretty carried away. If you go to custom and then you just start playing with all these controls, you can mess it up real quick. So you kind of have to, be patient and figure out exactly what mode better suits you for everything. And again, if you want to speed things up, you're going to be going top speed, and top speed kind of makes it look like someone sprinkled sand all over it. It just really dilutes the image. So again, there's going to be a lot of different controls you're going to have to deal with on something like this. So essentially, Amazon gives it to you on a silver platter, and all the other guys leave it to you to control the way you want it to look. What do we find after this kind of quick, easy video? We have found that Amazon has set this up in a way where you buy it, you set it, you forget it, everything works. Every color, every image, everything that requires more than just black and white is going to look good, and it's going to look the best effectively. It doesn't require intervention, whereas this requires just so many things. You have 5 speed modes, you have a million different setup parameters, you have all this glow light you can apply. There's a lot to really deal with to just get not even the same result. It technically, even after all that work, doesn't look as good as this. Even with kind of similar brightness on, you can see that, look how nice that looks. And with the traditional Kaleido, it just kind of falls flat. And now they're both using the same Kaleido, but let's just call it like it is. Amazon has a lot more money, a lot more resources to dedicate to R&D than the other players. So when you get something like an Amazon or a Kobo Rakuten, it just works. Whereas with something like this, it doesn't always just work. So I hope this kind of sheds some light, both actually and figuratively, on the subject of traditional kind of third-party devices, Kaleido 3, people just, copying each other's operating systems and buying the same screens, versus something that's a little bit more dedicated, a 7-inch Kaleido from the largest player in the game.